Dana White's Contender Series. This is week number 5. We got 5 fights lined up for this Tuesday night. I'm John Kelly. Let's hear the picks. Kicking things off, we're in the women's strawweight division where Denise Gomez comes in as a big favorite, minus 325. The comeback on Amanda Ryan is plus 250. And we'll start with Gomez. She's a 5-1 prospect fighting out of Brazil. She's the girlfriend of current UFC fighter Carol Hossa, and she has a 5-1 record. 4 of those wins are coming by knockout, so you would think that she has some pretty big power, but really watching her tape, I wasn't super impressed with her striking and her power. Most of those knockouts came against fighters who had a clear cardio dump, and she was able to take over after they gassed out and get them out of there. But in terms of her striking, I'm not very impressed. You know, she seems a little bit slow. She seems plodding, flat-footed. Like, I really was not impressed with her striking based off of her record. I expected to see a lot more technique and power in terms of the striking. And in terms of the grappling, she holds a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She seems to be a little bit tricky with her submission attempts, but her defensive grappling, I think, is a little bit suspect. She spends a lot of time on her back at times. Instead of working her way back to her feet, she can be taken down as well. And she's going to be at a grappling disadvantage here against Ryan Amanda, who's a former black belt world champion in grappling. She's a high-level black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She's got a bunch of wins by submission. She hasn't really fought great competition. She's on a 4-fight win streak. None of those opponents had a winning record. You know, there was a couple 0-0 fighters that had never fought before, but she still is very dangerous with the grappling, and she seems to be aggressive right out of the gate. So we can at least count on her to be the more aggressive fighter in the beginning and to have the grappling advantage. You know, she's very dangerous once she gets the fight to the mat. You know, she's rolling for arm bars, even from dominant position. Not saying that's the smartest thing that you can do, but she seems to be very good at it. She has like 6 or 7 armbar finishes. She can lose position going for those submissions, which we never really like to see, especially against somebody as big and physical as Gomez here, who could potentially make her pay if she gets on top. But at this price tag, that's what I keep going back to. It's like, you're giving me the fighter in Amanda who's in the plus 250 range, who I think is going to be more aggressive, throwing more volume early, and she's the more dangerous submission grappler while she's fresh. I'm going to take the dog shot here in Amanda, who should have 1 or 2 opportunities to pull off that submission, and I think she could on Tuesday. So give me Ryan Amanda by submission. That's the official pick, and she's going to be the pick for the DGen parlay. Next fight up in the bantamweight division, we have Josh Wong Kim coming in as a minus 215 favorite. The comeback on Cameron Simon is plus 175, and we'll start with Josh Wong Kim. He's a 5-1 prospect, 4 of those wins coming inside the distance. He has that typical karate, kung fu style approach to striking. He has a stance kind of similar to Wonderboy Thompson. He's obviously not at that level, but that's kind of what he's trying to do. He's very light on his feet. You know, he's frequently switching stances. He'll throw a bunch of kicking attacks, some flashy techniques, flying knees, spinning attacks as well. And he's knocked a few people out like that. Like, I don't think he's a high IQ style of fighter, but he's very exciting in terms of what he's willing to go for when he does actually let his hands go. And he's hurt a couple guys on the regional scene with his flying knees. He's got nasty knees in the clinch as well. But I was more impressed with his grappling. Not that he's like this amazing grappler. He's only a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but the way that he chained his submission attempts together, I think that's what's really impressive in terms of his finishing equity, especially when you're fighting against these lower level opponents on the regional scene and even on Contender Series. I rate his finishing equity more so than a lot of the other fighters that we've seen up to this point this season on Contender Series. And against this opponent, Cameron Simon is just 21 years old. He's the bantamweight champion over in EFC. He fights out of South Africa. He's actually the protege of current UFC fighter Dricus du Plessis. And basically, he's very young and athletic and raw, but I don't think this kid is very skilled in terms of his technicality. I still have major question marks with his durability. I have major question marks with his cardio. I have question marks with his striking defense, his defensive grappling. Like, I just think, I'm not saying that he's a bad fighter. I think it's too much too soon considering how young he is, but I think this is a pretty big step up for him just in terms of his fighting style. Like, he basically just blitzes forward, tries to spam volume and land something heavy, and he does seem to have a little bit of power, but he's getting clipped himself because he's just completely reckless on defense. He could be taken down as well. I just think if Kim is able to force the grappling, I think he cuts through this kid on the mat. Honestly, I think Kim will sub this dude. That's my official pick, is Kim by submission. But even in the striking, like, Kim's a pretty good counter striker, and the style that Simon has, I just think is going to leave himself wide open to counters by Kim, and I expect Kim to take advantage of it. So I just think the overall well-roundedness of Kim, along with the experience edge, I think he gets this one done, and I feel pretty confident in that. So Kim by submission is the official pick, and he's going to be the play for the DGen parlay as well. Next fight up, this one's in the flyweight division, where Erisen Ferreira is coming in as a -225 favorite. The comeback on Jesus Aguilar is +190, and Erisen Ferreira fought on last season of Dana White's Contender Series. He had a decision win over Chow Lun, and that was actually his first career decision win. He's an 11-1 prospect. Prior to that, all 10 wins have come by knockout. This dude is very powerful for the flyweight division, but as we saw in that Contender Series fight last season, he was dropped early in the first round, and he fought through adversity. Some people didn't think he probably deserved to win, and maybe that's why he didn't get a contract. You know, I'm not here to score fights. I'm here to evaluate talent and hopefully pick the winner for this next fight. So I'm not going to get into that too much, but it was nice to see him fight through some adversity. The concern is the durability, because we have seen him even on the regional scene at times get stung, and he was dropped multiple times in that Contender Series fight. So it is possible that he just might not be a very durable guy, but in terms of the striking, he does have clear power for the flyweight division. His defensive grappling is not super great, but it's not terrible either. Like, we saw him explode back to his feet after being taken down multiple times, and that's likely to come in play here against Jesus Aguilar, who's primarily a grappler. He's a 7-1 prospect fighting out of Mexico, but 5 of his wins have come by submission. He's got a tight guillotine choke. That is his best weapon, but it's pretty clear his striking is very rudimentary. He doesn't have much in terms of tools on the feet. He does have some nice knees in the clinch, but it's really his wrestling. He's looking to take you down and submit you, and most of that has come against lower level talent. I think he might be able to land a takedown or two here, but I think Ferreira will be able to explode back to his feet or potentially sweep him as well. And I think on the feet, he's just got way too much for Aguilar. I think Aguilar is going to be outgunned on the feet, and I think Ferreira could potentially hurt him and get him out of there. So Ferreira by TKO is going to be the official pick. A decision wouldn't be the most surprising thing if Aguilar turns out to be very durable, but I think Ferreira has real power for the flyweight division, and he's certainly going to go for it after not getting a contract last season. So Ferreira is going to be the play for the DGen parlay. Which brings us to our next fight in the welterweight division. We have Amaran Gogalate coming in as a -355 favorite. The comeback on Darius Flowers is +280. Gogalate is a 12-2 prospect fighting out of Georgia. Some shades of a budget version of Giga Chikadze. He definitely seems to have some power in his hands. A lot of his wins have come by knockout. You know, you have some guys, in fact, we just saw last weekend when Paulo Costa had Luke Rockhold hurt, and he just, for whatever reason, didn't go for the finish. That's not what Gogalate does. Like, he's one of those fighters that when he smells blood in the water, he is going to absolutely go for it. And that's what I respect, especially at the lower level competition where a lot of guys just look for a way out or can't recover as quickly. But his striking, he seems to be very solid, pretty technical, definitely has the power, fights out of southpaw stance, has some really powerful hooks, some good kicking attack as well, and he's fought solid competition on the regional scene as well. The main thing is he can be taken down. He gets a little bit sloppy, can be controlled on the mat at times, but overall he seems to be a pretty well-rounded prospect and definitely an impressive striker. But in terms of this matchup, Darius Flowers is an 11-5 fighter who previously fought in LFA, but in terms of the level of competition, so I would actually say that Gogalate has faced better competition on the regional scene, despite Flowers fighting over in LFA, but he seems to be just built like a brick house. Like, he's a little bit stocky, has sort of a stocky build to him. The power is very clear, though. When this dude lands clean, he is putting guys out. He has serious power. 7 of his 11 wins have come by knockout. He comes from a boxing background, but of those 5 losses, he's been submitted 4 times. So the defensive grappling is definitely a big concern, even though he's shown the ability to land takedowns here, which just adds another dynamic in this fight where you have a big underdog who has clear power and potentially could land takedowns and bank some top time. So I get why people would be interested in the dog here, but I just think Gogalate potentially styles on him on the feet. I just think he has too many tools. You know, Flowers, outside of the big power, there's just not much depth to his striking. You know, he's basically moving forward, trying to land a big punch. He times this really powerful uppercut that he's going to look for to land multiple times. He's hurt multiple opponents with that big uppercut. But outside of him being able to land one of those really big shots that hurts Gogalate, I really don't think he gets this one done. For whatever it's worth, this is probably my least confident read, just because I think the power is real and the ability to land takedowns just makes this fight a little bit closer than I feel comfortable, but I do think Gogalate probably gets his hand raised here. So Gogalate by knockout is the official pick. And the last thing I'll say, even though Flowers has only been knocked out once professionally, he does have like 3 or 4 losses by knockout in boxing. So that just adds to where I'm not sure the durability factor is going to be quite to the level of Gogalate. So we're going to go with the young kid out of Georgia to get his hand raised. Which brings us to our main event in the heavyweight division. We have Eduardo Nevis, a -275 favorite. The comeback on Michael Parkin is +215. And Eduardo Nevis is a 5-0 undefeated prospect fighting out of Brazil. He's previously fought in LFA. This kid seems to be pretty impressive in terms of his hands. You know, it's the heavyweight division, so obviously everybody has at least some level of power, but he definitely seems like he has the power to put guys out here. All 5 of his wins have come by knockout, all 5 of which have come inside the first 2 rounds. He's actually ended his last 3 fights inside of 1 minute and 5 seconds. So he's typically landing a kill shot early, fights out of a southpaw stance, does have some heavy kicks, and obviously if he connects clean with one of those big powerful hooks or his big left hand, he's probably gonna topple you over. And in terms of Michael Parkin, he's another 5-0 undefeated prospect. The difference is the level of competition is very, very clear to me. This guy has not faced anyone near the level of Eduardo Nevis or the guys that Nevis has faced over in LFA. Michael Parkin has actually never recorded a win over a fighter with a winning record. He fought somebody that was like 1-7, 3-17 or something. He just hasn't faced anybody with above a 500 record. And I just think, like, if you watch his regional tape, he's very slow, doesn't put a ton of volume out there. Of course, he has the typical heavyweight power, but he's mostly trying to clinch up with guys, peel you to the ground at some point, and then just kind of, he doesn't have much of a ground game, but he just, you know, manages to get in top position and then smashes these guys that turtle up. But it's not even like he has overwhelming ground and pound, and these guys are just basically quitting on him. I just think it speaks more to the level of competition than it does the skill set of Michael Parkin here, and I think he's going to be outgunned on the feet if he's unable to land those takedowns, which I'd kind of be surprised if he could against Nevis. And if he's unable to do so, I think Nevis just completely outvolumes him until he hits him with something big that eventually puts him out. So give me Nevis by TKO. That's going to be the official pick, and he's going to close things out for the DGen parlay as well. So quick recap for the DGen parlay. In the first fight, we're going with the dog, Ryan Amanda. I think she's going to be the more aggressive fighter and has the potential path to victory with her high-level grappling. So we're going to go with the dog in the first fight. Second fight, I like my guy Josh Wong Kim. I just think it's too much too soon for Cameron Simon. He's too young, he's too raw, and I think Kim exposes him here in terms of the striking, and I think he cuts through him on the mat. So give me Josh Wong Kim in the second fight. In the third fight, we're going with the guy. He's back on Contender Series after winning a decision last season. We got my guy Erisen Ferreira. I just think he's probably more powerful, has multiple levels to his game, whereas Jesus Aguilar is a little bit one-dimensional, and I think he can struggle if he doesn't get his wrestling going. So we're going with the favorite in the third fight. The fourth fight, this one was probably the one where I was most back and forth. I get why Darius Flowers could potentially be a live dog with how powerful he is and the ability to land takedowns. I think Gogalate is just the better martial artist. I think there's more room for improvements from the young kid, and I think in terms of the striking, he just has more levels to his game to where he could potentially hurt Flowers and get him out of there. So we're going with the young Georgian in that fight. And then, of course, closing things out in our main event heavyweight division, we're going with Eduardo Nevis. I just think he's clearly better than Michael Parkin, who hasn't faced anybody to the level of Nevis. So outside of a big lucky punch, I think Nevis gets his hand raised here. So one dog, 4 favorites. That's how we're doing it, guys. Best of luck, and we'll see you next time.